All right, here we are to talk about Star Trek Discovery, Season 3, Episode, whatever number it is, I think it's 8, The Sanctuary. And tonight's episode had a ton of stuff happening in it. So there is a lot to discuss. So we're going to jump into it and say hello to our guests for the evening. How are you all doing?
Excellent.
Good.
Doing
Glad to hear it.
Doing well.
Before we
yes.
begin, real quick, I just want to say we need everyone to be on their best behavior, or I'm sending you to Federation summer camp.
Oh no.
Well,
Lord, no,
joke's
we can't
on
have
you,
that
man. I like Federation Summer Camp.
All right, so we have General Kenobi, who is making an appearance over from the Star Wars universe.
Hello there.
We have the Oracle of the Dinner Table. We have Vandy Beth Glenn. And Mr. Clarence Brown.
Hey, I think I'm conflicted as well.
Oh,
Oh,
I love that. I love that.
I'm confused.
Okay, so
we just made
have
some nerds really mad somewhere.
Yep. All right, we have episode 8-ish. Is it 8?
Yeah.
Tonight
It's
was
8.
8, right. The Sanctuary, and holy Moses, all kinds of stuff happened in it. So let's go around the table here and just give us your overall impression of the episode, what you thought of it, starting with the General.
I liked
And this
it.
is not an insurance commercial.
Yeah, save some time.
That's right.
I liked it overall. I mean, I don't think it was the strongest episode of the season, and I think there have been other episodes of Trek that have done similar themes better, but I think it moved the plot along for this season. Helped us learn a few things that are going to be useful down the road.
All right. Lizbeth.
I generally liked it. I didn't think it was an incredibly strong episode. Interesting things. I liked it was another Frakes directorship.
Yep.
Which I will be referencing during a later discussion.
Okay.
And I like any episode that is not the Michael Burnham show, because I like the fact that there was more direction towards what other members of the ensemble were doing, and she was again kind of a supporting player. I mean, she was there, but she wasn't the center of attention and wasn't over emoting.
Absolutely. Clarence.
Yeah, this was probably my least enjoyable episode of the season. I do think there are a lot of good things in there. I think this season has been all about each of our crew members working through issues. And this is where we get to see Georgiou kind of work through a bit of our issues as well. So on the whole, I think it was good, but I don't know. I'm not loving the book stuff so far, but I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Interesting.
It's too squishy, lovey stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. They were holding hands on the bridge. Oh. Yeah, I said the same thing.
Come on.
Well, you know, I realized somebody pointed out to me that Book's actually been on Doctor Who before.
Yes, I'm trying to remember what episode, but he has been on there.
Really?
It's the one with Queen Elizabeth and England in space and stuff. He's one of the guys that can, like, whose face changes around to the angry robot.
That was one of the dumbest alien things I've ever done, and B, a completely unmemorable episode that I've only seen one time because it just wasn't interesting enough to watch a second time. Vandy Beth, what are your impressions of tonight's episode?
Yeah, well, before I get to that, I'm not a Doctor Who fan, as you all know, but I mean, someone whose
we all have our faults.
Someone whose face changes around when they're angry, that's not even a science fiction concept. My face does that.
Your head turned with it?
That's okay. That's the one. It was with Queen Elizabeth the 25th or whatever she was in the future. That was that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I liked this. I like many things about this episode. I like as usual. I like the Adira and Stamets show within a show that's progressing. I like that very much, and I like if this
Osira.
Osira, if she's going to be the big bad of the season, then I like that they're developing the threat more.
Yeah.
With this episode, I have certain thoughts and possible misgivings about where exactly they went with that in this episode. But overall, I liked it, and I like that they're figuring out more about the burn, and I like that they're teasing us with it. Like at the beginning, they said we're going to find out what ship this is, and then. I was sure they're going to tell us by the end of the episode, and they didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and that's a little maddening, but from a storytelling point of view, I was pleased with it. And then we had a Giorgio subplot that involved them putting Michelle Yeoh in a skin tight unitard, and I am all about that.
Never a bad thing. I really enjoyed tonight's episode, and certainly more than I did last week's episode. Last week I wasn't here for it, but tonight I really enjoyed it. A lot of stuff happened. It seemed like a very solid and very eventful middle chapter. In our overall season-long story, it seemed like an episode that really moved a lot of things forward. So I was really kind of into it. Plus, it had a lot of action, and I'm always about that because that's been something that's not had a lot of in the last few episodes. So, since Vandy Beth brought up Osira, let's jump into the stuff that was happening on the planet Kwejian, which I'm glad they put they showed a screen that had the name displayed on it, so I now know how to spell that.
Right.
Kwejian.
No, Kwei, isn't it?
Kwejian. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, we get some location filming again, which is always great. Michael and Book head down to the planet where they are facing an infestation of sea locusts that are eating all the land food or something. So
the very own plague.
This is no food.
So we get this episode mainly was a little bit about Book and some of his background and where he's from and who his people are. And I was really, really excited to see some of that because as Clarence was saying earlier, I've really not been feeling sort of the point of Book this season. And tonight, I finally felt like there was some significance to him. So what are your thoughts about Book and what we've now been shown about him?
He's the new Deanna.
He is not the new Deanna.
Just as sexy.
I kind of thought this was the weakest Book episode we've gotten. Okay, family drama. That's been done better. Like I said before, that's been done better on other episodes of Trek than this.
Well, I mean, the family drama wasn't quite, the forefront of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly an element. But so who else has some thoughts about this?
While it was interesting to see a little bit of his backstory, it just wasn't like was mentioned before. I don't think it was strong. I would like to hear more about their empathic abilities.
Definitely.
Some more backstory on that would have been interesting to me. But everything on the planet, for some reason, it just didn't feel like Star Trek to me. It just felt out of place a little bit.
Interesting.
Would it have helped if they had filmed that planet at the Vasquez Rocks in California?
Most definitely.
Then I would have been punching the air, But I don't know. When they were in the I guess it was the home or the office, it just felt like, that could be any office they could be standing in shooting at it. I don't know. It just felt weird.
Okay. I can get that.
And any episode that has Grudge, even for a brief moment, although I was very worried that he was going to get injured or she was going to get injured in the space battle.
Well, at
But
least she wasn't just lounging around on a console somewhere.
I
She
know,
actually.
and I loved it when she jumped into Ren's lap and he's like, "What is that? What's that strange noise she's making?"
Yeah, that was good. That was
This is a
good.
pet.
So, and this ties into something Vandy Beth was saying earlier about the Emerald Chain. I like the way that they're building up this chain thing. It sounds like a Fleetwood Mac song without the emerald part. That they're building up this threat, like they're sort of developing this into, building it up into a bigger thing than we may have thought originally, which I kind of like. It sort of slightly reminds me of the second season of DS9, the first time they dropped the word Dominion. And it didn't mean anything. It had no context. It was just something somebody mentioned. And then from there, it builds into
episode. Intentionally,
Right.
it was done, and it was done in a Ferengi episode intentionally to make you not really pay attention to it.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I like the way that the chain has been sort of like slowly built up, and we're finally starting to see now the kind of stuff that they're capable of.
And I also thought it was really interesting when we got the little reveal later on about what Ren's big secret was. We were thinking, okay, so a lot of their stuff that they're doing is maybe that the same thing that the Federation was doing that kind of led up to the burn. And because the Federation, that was the big break with the Vulcans and the Romulans, was that they were making the Federation members do things that that the members weren't really happy about to try to salvage that whole dilithium problem, although they weren't killing planets and things. But it to me there was a little parallel there, because both the Federation and the Emerald Chain are facing the run out of dilithium, and so they're getting desperate right now.
Right. So two sides of the same coin, kind of, to be terribly cliched.
But effective.
Exactly. So speaking of the burn, and I'm sure we'll come back to some more of Book and his planet and stuff. But speaking of the burn, I thought tonight's segment on that was really, really interesting, in that we now see that the burn is sort of tied to this melody that everybody seems to know in the galaxy, as well as a Starfleet distress signal.
A new mystery within a mystery.
Exactly.
Yep. I mean, I figured the little melody was going to have something to do with it.
Clearly. Yeah.
The melody is probably going to turn out to be a mutated form of Frere Jacques.
It's elevator music stuck on a loop and broadcast out to the rest of the galaxy.
It's the girl from Ipanema.
So now everyone just subconsciously knows this melody is. I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
Really?
Yeah, I mean the fact that Adira's been playing it, and you also had the Barzan family who were humming it. It just feels a little bit too whimsical for me for Star Trek, but. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
Didn't Gray say it was sung to him
as a lullaby?
Okay.
Well, maybe it wasn't Gray. It was one of the other entities, but they did reference that they remembered it being sung as a lullaby. Maybe
I'm sure it was Gray that said that.
Oh, was it Gray?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the song could have came first, and they just used the song in their transmission or whatever. So I guess that makes a little more sense to me. I like that better.
It's the Federation's hold music.
And incidentally, speaking of Osira, which we just were, if she looks familiar, it's because she's played by Janet Kidder, whose aunt was Margot Kidder, who played Lois Lane in the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and she looks a lot like her aunt.
Yeah, because I kept thinking she looks so familiar. Where do I know her from? And then I was like, oh, that's why she looks familiar.
She does have a similar look, but her skin tone is so much different.
Yeah, it was a different side
She
of the
looks a little
family.
green.
Yeah, she's envious of the Federation.
Ah.
And she's really new at her job.
There you go.
I mean,
Oh,
she's
yeah,
all about the dollar bills, right?
probably.
All the
That's what she wants the transworms for.
Mhm.
yep.
The price of transworm meat has gone up. All right,
Well,
so
you know, Orions are always greener on the other side of the view screen.
oh wow.
Mm.
All right, well, I think we've run the course on that, hopefully.
Yeah, it was something beautiful, and then you just had to take it too far.
That's what I do.
All right, so
What I
Giorgio,
do.
we've
Mm.
gotten a little bit more ground on what's afflicting her. And we
Yes.
had a lot of really good scenes with her this time.
Yep, a lot of witty repartee hiding the pain and fear.
Exactly. The defense mechanism
Hmm.
of lashing out. So what do you think is going on with her? We've talked a little bit about, in the last couple of episodes, we talked a little bit about the possibility of, she's seeing visions of the mirror universe.
Hmm.
So what's going on? Is she being pulled back to it? Is she being used as a conduit to reach it again?
Well, David Cronenberg told us, and even if we learn that character's name, I'm just going to call him David Cronenberg.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I just refer to him as Agent Cronenberg.
David Cronenberg told us that the two universes have been moving further apart, whatever that means.
Exactly.
And I'm wondering if maybe in its effect on Giorgio is that it makes her, that it causes this problem for her. A little much like in in the Golden Compass, those books by Philip Pullman. It was established that you could only live in your own universe. If you lived in a different universe, then you aged much too fast, and you basically withered and died away from your home universe. And maybe they're saying that with the greater distance between the two universes, something like that is happening to Giorgio, that is having a deleterious effect on her health.
Yeah.
And they can say that didn't happen to Lorca because the universes were closer together when Lorca crossed over many 900 years ago, and so he was able to survive with hunger.
And wasn't that a problem with back in the original series? They found some guy who apparently was swapping dimensions with his other half, and it was causing problems every time they did it.
That was where?
It was in the original series. I
It's in
can't remember the
TOS.
episode.
I hated that episode. I know what you're talking about, though.
Was it the two guys who were black on one side and white on the other side?
No, it was the same dude. But, for some reason, he would swap places with his other dimensional counterpart, like his antimatter, anti-universe self, and it would, blow shit up every time he did it.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Does anybody want? I'm gonna give you a little interesting sort of tidbit about Giorgio. It doesn't mean anything yet, and it involves some other media, which I have not read yet, so I don't really know anything about it. But one of the things that happens when she is seeing visions of the mirror universe is she calls out a name, San.
Right.
And I noticed in the credits, San is credited with an actor. So I'm thinking that that's going to be a bigger presence this season.
Yeah.
Author John Jackson Miller, who is in the past is mostly known as writer of Star Wars novels, has been writing a number of Discovery tie-in novels. And his newest one has very recently come out. And if you remember an episode or two ago, it was called Die Trying. His new novel is called Die Standing,
Mm.
and San is in his novel.
Yep.
So it's definitely a character that's going to have some significance more than in just a couple of episodes of the TV show. So I think we're in for something really interesting with that.
So we might be actually getting some novels that have a real effect on the series and vice versa.
Exactly.
I doubt that. Or I would think it's more likely that that novelist was given inside information that hasn't been revealed on the show yet.
Yep. All right. So let me see if we got any good comments like this one from Wendy, where she says that Book has a brother who speaks like Antonio Banderas, which is awesome. Amanda says, I wonder if the Emerald Chain could have anything to do with the Orion Syndicate. I
Well-
would be shocked if it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
An evolution of it.
Exactly. It's an outgrowth from that, most likely.
Or it took over from the Orion Syndicate. Like it was a rival that eventually destroyed them.
Wendy likes how Saru asked them to tune the signal because of his superior hearing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was good.
One of the things that we talked about last week is how Saru has seemingly been sidelined in the last few episodes in favor of a focus on Burnham, even though she was demoted from first officer down to science officer. And I think that this episode really reset that balance a lot better than the show has in the last few episodes, where they're separated. She goes off on her own, but he gets his chance to command the ship in a way that he really hasn't in the last two or three episodes, which I was really glad to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So has he you think settled on his new catchphrase, or he's still going to try some out? Because the crew at the last one was like,
That was a silly but cute element. I thought that was
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Like
It
you
is
gotta
for
wonder
me at
like
all.
what process captains go through for their catchphrase.
Oh, it just evolves naturally. He has to fuss over it for some reason.
Yeah. It did not have me engaged.
ah,
Oh,
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure the writers are working on a way to execute a good transition to his catchphrase.
Yeah, it was a nice way to bring some comedy in the episode, other than because we're seeing talk about transition. We're seeing Tilly take on a more serious role. I mean, she even told Ren,
Right.
"Okay, don't dare talk to the captain like that."
yeah.
You
So
know, so-
Tilly stepping into her first officer role.
mhm.
Yeah. So we need another way to bring some comedy in the show.
Mhm.
Well, not comedy, so bring some lightheartedness to the show. I don't think it can be Tilly in the way Tilly has been the comedy in the past.
No, but it can be Tilly in a very different way. And we saw that tonight when Ren steps into the office and he says, I
Yes.
want to talk.
She's like, "Hold up,
Mhm.
Wait, we lost
Alan.
you.
I think
Alan.
we lost your audio."
We lost you. We cannot hear you.
Son of a biscuit. Okay, so when Ren comes into the office and says, I want to speak to the captain, and she dresses him down, it was done in a serious way for her, but humorous for the
Mhm.
audience. So
Right.
it certainly can work in that way.
Yeah.
Also,
But,
remember,
you always have Linus. Of course, he won't shed again for another year.
also remember that Mary Wiseman, who plays Tilly, is married to the actor who plays
Mhm.
Ren.
Yeah.
So her dressing him down like that for all we know, it's part of their regular role play.
Exactly. That's
I'm sure it happens a lot at home too.
exactly.
The only thing I didn't like about Tilly as the first officer in this episode was that she seemed almost like Saru's personal assistant, more than the first officer captain relationship that we've seen in the past.
Right.
Well, she's been first officer for one episode.
I know.
So give her the season
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
before Burnham takes the position back at the end of the season, which
No, I
I'm
hope
sure is
that
going to
doesn't
happen.
happen. I hope
Oh,
that
I'm-
doesn't happen.
I'm sure it'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, he created. I mean, she was just an ensign, and she's just been through the command training program, so she's very green.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
She's practically Orion.
speaking,
But
speaking of Burnham and her demotion, though, she continues not to face any real consequences for her continuing
Absolutely.
transgressions of laws and regulations, and yet simply for undergoing a normal metabolic process for his species, Linus was banned from the mess hall. That does not seem fair to me at all.
it's just not hygienic to have dead skin all over the place.
He can't help it. He just needs a good moisturizer. And
Or a little kid to help him pick off the
You're
Exactly.
you're a lizard. I mean, you're gonna shed.
That's right. But you don't come to the mess hall while you're doing it.
You just gotta get new skin and be done with it.
I mean, if his elbows were a little ashy, then nobody would complain. They just give him a little lotion.
Wendy tells us that the Ready Room has an awesome spoiler about Philippa, which I didn't get a chance to watch Ready Room yet today, so I will do that later
the
tonight.
previews for next week look pretty cool.
Absolutely.
And it looks great because it sounds like it's a Philippa episode.
Right.
So have
Right.
we told Daniel, is he going to be on the episode next week?
I thought about asking him, yes, and I certainly will ask him, but we'll have to see. Wendy is insistent that Vandy Beth, you should watch A, the Reese, and B, the Ready Room. There you go.
I'll watch one of those, but not both of them.
Watch the one that
I've never
exists.
seen either of them.
Ready
But
Room
I
is
wish-
okay. It's
I wish-
a after show that Will Wheaton hosts, and he's just a little too enthusiastic.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's definitely a
is.
fan.
We just need to give Will some to calm him down.
But I will say that the first season of it, which they did during Discovery season 1, was hosted by Matt Myra, and I don't care how enthusiastic and over the top Will gets, it's so much better than Matt Myra.
I've never heard of that person.
He's a comedian. All right, so Chris,
I love Will, so he can get as excited as he wants.
Well, and does he do that show live? Does he do his after show live? Because I was going to say his dog died yesterday. And
oh, I know, I saw
Seamus,
that.
yeah, Seamus. They had to have Seamus put down yesterday.
Yeah.
So
And well, in related news, one of the Queen's dorgies died, and his name
Aw.
was Vulcan.
oh,
Okay, Chris says, I think she's saying, I thought Giorgio is a hollow whose resonance is off.
oh,
I don't think so.
Yeah, my theory was
I
that
think-
she could be a changeling, but with the scan, that kind of threw that out the window. But although she did kind of pulse a little bit at the end, and they were like, "What's going on with that?" No.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Interestingly, a lot of people online have been saying that they think Grudge is a changeling or a shapeshifter of some kind.
oh.
I
He's a
guarantee
fucking-
you.
We
I
actually.
guarantee-
Oh,
I
go
don't
ahead.
know I don't know what specifically is up with Grudge, but I guarantee you she is not just a cat.
Yeah, because we talked about that. I think when Grudge first showed up, we referenced that episode back in the original series with that black cat Isis
Yeah,
that was with
Mhm.
Gary. What is
Assignment Earth.
Gary 7? Yeah, and you
Mhm.
realized at the end that that Isis was well, I don't know whether it was a changeling, but she was another species that was just projecting as a cat, and
Yeah.
we made that comparison. So it'll be interesting to see if Grudge really is something else.
Wendy agrees with me that Matt Myra was wicked annoying. And Wendy tells us that he did a great interview with Gray and Adira, the actors, on this week's Ready Room, which I'm looking forward to seeing. That's awesome. So let's talk about Adira a little bit. Adira has sort of a coming out episode this week, and we see sort of this growing family relationship between her, between them,
Mm-hmm.
My mistake. And Stamets and Culber, which I really think is a cool development.
Yes, Stamets and Colbert became parents this week.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. But the only thing I didn't like about that episode was that when Adira was correcting Stamets, to me she seemed uncomfortable doing it.
Yes.
And I didn't like that because Stamets was like,
Lisbeth.
"Oh, okay," and then moved on.
Lisbeth, you mean they seemed uncomfortable doing it?
No, Adira seemed uncomfortable.
That's what she's saying.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I'll leave the episode now. But I just felt that portrayal, they seemed very uncomfortable doing it, and I didn't think that didn't resonate to me. To me, they should have just said, corrected it, and Stamets would have gone, "Oh, okay," just like he did,
Mhm.
and then they moved on.
I was nervous. I knew this was coming, and I was nervous about it because I was certain that either the people that they informed about their pronouns to would react like a 21st century person, and it would ring false, or that they would make the revelation in a way that seemed like the way that a 21st century non-binary person would, and that would seem off. But I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it came out beautifully. I thought Stamets reacted just the way that a 24th century man, especially a 24th century gay man, would have responded to that. And Adira themselves, the way they shared it, the way they were tentative about it, I think rang true for me as someone who is used to being very private about such things. Someone of whatever century who is used to being very private about such things, and that's why they seem hesitant and kind of shy about it. Not because there was any shame around it or anything like that. Any sort of 21st century ideas around that.
But the scene to me played very much like a 21st century scene as opposed to a 32nd century. Like, I don't know that they would still have the hang up about this concept in the 32nd century. You know what I mean?
Well, they might not, but remember, Stamets is not from the 32nd.
I understand that, but he's still 400 years or 300 years in advance of us. I felt like it was talking to us rather than talking to each other, if that makes any sense.
And I thought it was interesting too because Frakes directed this episode, and Frakes, of course, also was in the episode back in TNG, where remember he fell in love with the race of the guy.
They were like an androgynous.
Identifying with a gender was wrong. It was illegal, and they went to mental institutions because of it. And I thought that was an interesting development that he directed this episode when he actually had starred in an episode that had a few similarities.
I believe I've read that Frakes has said that he wasn't happy with that episode, that he didn't think it was daring enough. So maybe he saw this as a chance to fix that.
That's possible. I did think it was a really, really lovely scene. I mean, in spite of what I'm saying earlier, I do think it was really well played. And it came off, and it was kind of it wasn't dwelt upon, which I thought was nice. And something I was going to mention, and that Wendy has also pointed out, is that Blue was not out when they auditioned for the role. They were still kind of like processing this whole thing in their own mind, and so taking this role on is what helped them in their own coming out, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because from me, there was a lot of confusion on the way they presented it as far as the production of the show. Because from people talking about it, they initially said this is how it was going to be from the very beginning. So when you're talking about it, you hear them on the show addressing it differently, but from the production side, we're hearing something else. It was just kind of confusing as someone talking about the show. But I do think it was well done in the show itself, though.
I mean, and there's like a long time of chatter on the internet, and even in this show, where it's like, well, why aren't they doing this? Why don't they, why don't 23rd, 24th century people already know about this?
Mhm.
And it's just like, well, and I'm just sitting back like going, well, just wait, just give it time. I'm sure they'll transition into it eventually, instead of, even if they didn't start off that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they did it with this episode, and I think they did it well.
Agreed.
George brings up a good point. At first, he thought they were referring to the other lives and not their identity, so it was muddy and confusing. And that's the sort of, I mean, to me, that's the clunkiness of that pronoun.
Mhm.
We don't have a good pronoun for this situation. We have to use what is historically a plural pronoun, and it's the same thing with Doctor Who now being a woman. Is that when technically you should call that being they, but then it sounds like you're referring to all 13 lives instead of the one being. It just doesn't work in science fiction.
There was a character in the Peter David Excalibur novels who used something like she, he, sure, her. It was like S apostrophe, like it would try to combine the two of them together with the slash in the middle.
Mhm.
Well,
And I think like cut to now in the 21st century, I think they works a lot better than what Peter tried to do back in the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
With his character.
Well, he wasn't the only person who's tried to do that. They've been
Mhm.
trying to create a set of pronouns for non-binary people for
Yep.
centuries, and no one's found anything that really has really worked yet.
But you kind of wish that I mean, I know that we're trying to tell a futuristic story with 21st century language,
Right.
but you kind of hope that by the time we really do come to that time period, they'll have worked that problem out.
Yeah, that's true. But
Mhm.
that would still be the 21st century writers of the show coming, and maybe they should have come up with a thing, but I think that they still want the storyline to be relatable to
Mhm.
the current
Mhm.
audience, so you can't
Right.
separate it too much from
You
the
also
current
don't want
audience.
you also don't want to come up with the wrong thing. Like
Right,
you make up your
exactly.
own thing. You say, "Hey, this is the new term," and then the entire community says, "No."
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
a good point.
If they were using one of some of those novelty pronouns like they and zir, then it would just take me right out of the story.
Yeah.
That would be all I was focusing on.
And Vandy Beth, the answer is yes.
Yay!
All right, so one last big thing that I kind of want to get to, because you all know that I'm like super focused on the like secondary bridge characters, is the significant role that Detmer got this week,
Yeah.
which I'm so thrilled to see.
Hmm.
I love it when
Colonel
any of those
Oculus
characters.
controls.
Yeah, I love it when any of those characters get something significant, and we've been building to this thing with her all season, and I was really thrilled to see her sort of reconnect with herself. I loved it. What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
I love the part where Book was on the surface of the planet, and he looked up and wait a minute, is that my ship?
Yeah, Detmer is becoming my favorite character.
Yeah,
I love the arc that they're pursuing with her, and she seems very relatable, and she's been with the show since the very beginning. She was in the pilot episode, and I feel like they're finally waking up to the possibilities with her.
And that's another Frakes reference too, because that whole handheld control when she was doing the manual control is a reference back to
Let's
the way.
never speak of that.
Well, I know, but it's still a reference back to that movie, and it's the way that Riker controlled the Enterprise, and of course Frakes did direct that movie, so it was an interesting little reference.
That's one of the things that to me made this episode feel much more like a true ensemble episode
Mhm.
than a lot of the recent
Mhm.
ones have, which I always love a good ensemble episode where everybody gets some.
Mhm.
I mean, even Nilsson got some. I mean, it was one little bit of dialogue, but it was significant, and I was really, really pleased to see that.
Yeah, all the flybys in the episode where she was flying by Osiris ship, that felt very Star Wars to me in a lot of
Yes.
ways. And even
Mhm. Yeah.
the switch in the manual part.
Yep.
So and
Absolutely.
the ship is even like a sort
Millennium
of
Falcon.
Millennium Falcon. So
Yeah.
you know they're hitting on all science fiction.
That's a
cylinders
good
there.
point, and it's a good thing that
Hmm.
two of you wore Star Trek or Star Wars T-shirts.
Mhm.
And Book is
Star
basically Han
Wars,
Solo,
Reminds
right?
me of either
Yeah.
the B-wing or like Dash Rendar's Outrider from the Dark Forces games. Just the way it flies. It
Yeah,
doesn't fly like anything in Star Trek. It definitely flies more like something from Star Wars.
yeah. We got the side bridge or side cockpit bridge, and then you have like the little table area that looks like the table area on the Millennium
Mhm.
Falcon. So,
Mhm.
meh.
Okay.
The
If
only
y'all
thing
don't,
the Millennium Falcon. So instead of a Wookiee, we have a cat.
Yeah. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
them little bandolier.
Interesting.
if y'all don't cool it with the Star Wars references, I'm gonna have to start issuing some citations.
And I have a new
I find your
catchphrase.
lack of faith disturbing.
A comment from a viewer called
This is a-
Vandy Beth Glenn says, "Just wanted to say I love this show, you guys, especially the chick with the ring light."
Oh, how
You
sweet!
can't plug yourself on the show. That comes later.
George says he feels like Detmer had a breakthrough, which I agree. I'm really happy to see that. I just hope that
Agreed.
this isn't the point where they sort of drop her storyline. I hope that, and it's been like a minor storyline as it is. I just hope that, they haven't brought her to the point of breakthrough and then, okay, no more significant scenes for Detmer.
There you go. That's
Unless they do it to shift to another one of the junior characters. Like, give me a good Owosekun subplot.
Yeah, I think the
Yes,
Bryce
I
stuff
wouldn't
has
worry
been really
about
strong
talking
too
no
in
more.
this season.
Yeah, all we really
about
know
Bryce?
about
I'm sorry.
Well, just he's getting a lot more limelight with communications
Yeah.
this season as well. So,
In the first episode, he was sort of leading the repair work, and I thought it was really cool to see. And that's how you do it. You take these folks off the bridge where they're just like saying, sensors are down or the shields are at 82%, and you put them in other situations where they have participation in the storyline. And it doesn't have to be the star of the show that week. It just has to be them participating in the plot. So I'm glad to see a little bit more of that this season.
I loved a couple weeks ago when they got the refit and Detmer was like, do we really need all this? And he's like, hell yeah, we do.
Yeah, I know.
yeah, that was great. That was great.
It's like, why don't you want this?
Wendy agrees that the attack felt very Star Wars for real. Okay, so what else about this episode that we haven't covered yet, or do we need to go back to anything? Did we cover Book enough? Because I felt like that was kind of the focus of the episode, and I don't know that we've discussed. I don't know what there is to say about it, though.
Well,
Yeah.
we were left at the end of the episode. He's joining the crew, right? Is that
That's a good point. Yeah, it does look that way.
So
He
I
wants
guess
in.
he's giving up his free life, but I know that he talked
It's
about
being Michael in return for that. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I wondered at the end. I was wondering. He had talked to his brother about the fact that he gets the Federation. He gets what they're
Mhm.
trying to do.
Mhm.
But you wonder, is it really because he really is believing in that mission and what they're trying to accomplish, or is he just following like a puppy dog behind Michael?
I think Michael's rubbing off on him.
Yeah,
In many ways.
I agree with that. I think she's rubbing off on everybody. Yeah,
All right,
that's
Tony, for you.
well, I mean, that's kind of story of the season. I think she's even rubbing off on Saru a bit because we see Saru go a little bit off script. When he talks to Vance He pretty much says we're just gonna be observing. That's all we're doing. But
Yeah.
when he gets there, he's like, "Oh no, we're Starfleet. We're gonna do what we have to do. We're gonna protect that
Yeah.
planet." So
It's like,
Right.
hey, we might need somebody to take the fall and go rogue on her.
Yeah.
Detmer, wink.
yeah,
But also, when they're in the mess hall at the end, and they have the long, the scene with Detmer saying, "Oh yeah, I did all this stuff," and then it shifts over to Ren and Tilly, and Ren is now reevaluating his opinion of the Federation, and that's exactly what Discovery. Like when this season was starting, I was like, Discovery is going to be the element that's going to change. We know that we're going into this season with the Federation in disarray, and it's going to be Discovery that's going to remind people what the Federation is supposed to be about.
So will Ren now want to go to Federation summer camp?
Maybe.
Like the founding fathers coming forth into the future and teaching us the true meaning of the Constitution.
Chris Railing says, Book and Michael are the power couple of this series.
Well, we don't really have
After Michael
another.
and Ash were last year.
Yeah, I was gonna say I still vote for but yeah, that's
I got to tell you, I got really tired of Ash.
Book and Michael don't have nearly the level of problems that Michael and Ash do.
Yeah, Ash went through some stuff.
But we don't
me anymore.
But we don't know if Book has like children scattered around the universe like Ash apparently did at least.
He had
one.
one
He got the
kid.
one.
That's not scattering.
He's grown. He's taking care of himself. He's good.
Ah,
All right, so
He's a monk.
the trailer for next week. Did everybody see that?
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Really intriguing.
It is very intriguing, and
We're
it looks like
definitely
it's
getting
going
that
to
Giorgio
have.
episode.
What's that?
So we're definitely getting that Giorgio episode.
Yeah, I think we are.
Mhm.
But there's one little element that I saw that I'm like really confused by and really curious about, and that's the one figure standing in a Next Generation era uniform. What the hell is that about?
Season 1 TNG uniform.
Yeah, exactly.
I missed
Apparently,
that.
the early shots of it, they used the Voyager comm badge. They had to go back and edit it to the right comm badge.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that's just careless of them.
I will be very surprised if, when they identify that Federation ship at the center of the burn, we don't know that ship. Like
Bum, bum, bum. No, so-
maybe it'll be Voyager. Maybe it'll be Captain Pike's Enterprise. Maybe it'll be that shuttlecraft that Scotty left the Enterprise in at the end of Relics.
That's true.
USS Bozeman again.
So, who was the
That's right. Kelsey Grammer will be on the show.
who was the figure in the uniform? Or what race was it?
Yeah, I couldn't quite tell.
I couldn't
Yeah.
either. It
Something
had a
brand
very
new.
distinct neck, but it didn't look Cardassian.
Hmm.
I need to go
And
back
I don't
and
think we
watch
had
it
any
again.
Cardassians in the Federation in TNG time. So,
Seemed like he had one of those things like frogs have that kind of blow up.
yeah, it could be. Could be. Oh, Wendy saying, watch Ready Room. Oh. So
All
the
right,
Ready
we'll
Room,
do that afterwards.
the Ready
Yeah.
Room ends each episode with a clip from next week's Discovery, and it's usually the very beginning scene, like before the opening credits. So maybe there's a clue there. We'll have to see.
You know what, Wendy? You could just tell us what happened in Ready Room
No,
instead of just telling us to watch Ready Room. If you're so eager for us to know, you can just tell us.
no,
Is that
please
on
don't.
All Access, or do I have to go somewhere else?
No, it's on
You-
CBS.
It's on YouTube
Okay.
as well.
Yeah, if you're on CBS, just like on the episode, just scroll down to extras or Ready Room, and you'll find it there. So okay, let's go around and do our out of 10 rating for this episode. Start. Who wants to start? I'm going to
I'll
pick
start.
Clarence if nobody else jumped in.
Yeah, I'll go.
All right, Clarence, what's your rating?
I will give it 6 transworms out of 10.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Vandy Beth, what's your?
I give it 7 flakes of Linus's shed skin out of 10.
Oh man, that's good. Elizabeth.
Well, that was going to be my rating system. I would give it 7 skin flakes out of 10. I normally give like extra bonus points anytime Grudge appears, but I really like the fact that this episode was truly an ensemble. I mean, everybody had a piece of the story that was relevant. It wasn't a Michael Burnham show.
Right.
I will go with a 7 sea lice out of 10. I don't think the story involving Book was particularly strong. I was actually going to go and compare it to Star Trek Insurrection in the sense that, hold on, that Jonathan Frakes can be given a bad script, and you can't really blame the quality of the story on his directing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay, and before I do mine, Amanda chimes in with, she gives it an 8 because we got so many characters in this episode. I agree. And also because there's no crying. Holy crap, I'm so glad to see an episode where nobody cried. I mean, Jesus, it's ridiculous. Wendy gives it a 7, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I am going to give 7.5 mysterious melodies out of 10. So that's kind of that's a good wrap for this week. Thank you all so much for joining me. Elizabeth, you had some things that you wanted to show.
Yes, I did. I wanted to do a little promo plug for this wonderful mask company. I mean, can anybody see who's on this mask? And does anybody?
Is it Baby Yoda?
Grogu. He has a name now.
It
We
will
don't
always
call him
be
Baby
Sweet
Yoda
Baby.
anymore.
He'll always be Baby Yoda.
We don't call him the
Exactly.
child
And
anymore. He's
these were
Grogu.
courtesy of Companions Corner, which you can find on Etsy. Very reasonably priced, very well made, a variety of science fiction, Star Wars, Doctor Who, Marvel, collegiate, a variety of masks. So go to Etsy and Companions Corner, and you can place an order for your own Baby Yoda mask.
Or he
Made by a
says,
very good friend.
or he says, if you know him, just reach out to him.
That's right.
So
You can do that.
just Facebook message him or something, and he'll hook you up. And he does very good work. I would show you the really, really wonderful Star Trek one that he made for me, which is like TNG era science uniform, but one of the pips fell off, so I'm not a commander anymore.
Oh,
And it wouldn't be so bad, except that it's the middle pip. So it just looks, but it's a fantastic mask, and it's like my favorite one that he's made for me. Anybody got anything they want to plug?
Well, as always, you can find me and my writings on anglotopia.net and londontopia.net.
Anglotopia.net.
There's our byline.
Kaboom.
Well done.
Clarence.
Yeah, and as for me, if you want to hear any podcasts that I'm on, check out discussingnetwork.com.
Yes, you are. And Elizabeth, where's yours?
I didn't type one in. Sorry.
No, I have one. Here it is.
Oh,
Boom.
yeah. Our Town DeKalb. I picked up the December issues today. They'll be on newsstands tomorrow. Online on Saturday on ourtowndecalb.com. Or if you live in the Tucker Smoke Rise, Embry Hills area, you might be lucky enough to get one in your mailbox.
Ooh. Vandy Beth, what's going on with you?
We're up to the year 1985 in our review of the top 10 Hot 100 songs of each.
Yes, we are. We're about to make the
1980s.
crossover from Purple Rain into Around the World in a Day. That's on the Prince scale, y'all.
Okay, fair enough. And I learned just a couple of hours ago that a film that I had in competition at a film festival won runner-up.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
That's phenomenal.
in the short film category. So yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Yay! That is fantastic.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, next week we have. Oh, next week's going to be a good one. We've got 3 new people on the show: Charles Kelso, Veronica Bramlett, and hopefully Keith Johnson. And there's a special reason why we have those folks on. So I hope you'll tune in next week, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So once again, thanks for joining me. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and discussing one of my favorite TV shows ever. Hope you all have a lovely night, and we will see you next week. Everybody take care.